Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun model making technique video, we are once again going to be talking about pastel weathering. This is one of those weathering techniques that is so versatile. You can do anything from applying exhaust stains to a model kit to adding surface detail that's not there. I've also used pastels to replicate the modeled camouflage that was applied to aircraft during World War II. I also use pastels for gunsmoke residue on the aircraft and to replicate smudges left by maintenance personnel. They can be used on natural metal finishes and camouflage finishes. There's just a tremendous amount of applications for the pastel weathering in model making. In my most recent pastel weathering video, we talked about adding missing surface detail to a kit using pastels. I had quite a few comments on that video from viewers who said they had tried pastels previously, but when they added a clear coat over the pastels, that the pastels completely disappeared, and so they lost their pastel weathering. In response to those comments, I thought it would be good to make a video where I go over the ground rules for pastel weathering, and there are a few basic ground rules for the pastel weathering that will really help you guys get the best results. The first ground rule, and the most important one when you're doing the pastels, is that you can go darker with the pastel weathering over a lighter coat, but you cannot go lighter with pastel weathering over a darker coat. That means you can't use pastels to lighten the base coat and effectively fade the paint, because as soon as you hit that with a clear coat, that lighter shade of pastel is going to disappear over the darker paint color. If you're planning a sun-faded look for an aircraft, it's always good to lighten your paint coat, and then you can darken in the panel lines and the darker areas with the pastel weathering. In this picture, we can see the Monogram Classics Hellcat model. I initially spent hours with a light blue pastel going through and adding fading to each of the small panels on this aircraft. I had a very nice weathered look, and as soon as I shot that with the clear coat, my light blue fading completely went away, and so it looks a little bit more monotone than I would like, but for me it was a lesson learned. So again, rule number one is you can always go darker with pastels. You cannot go lighter with the pastels. If we look at this picture, I have AMT's P40N, and you can see that I have done some gray exhaust staining on the side of the kit with pastels. And in order for me to maintain that, I actually had to apply that after the final clear coat was applied. Then I could go with a lighter shade of pastel, and as long as I don't go and clear coat it again, it will show up like it does now. I'm happy with the results, but if I handle this aircraft too much, I may have to reapply. If you're going to handle the model frequently after you have completed it, I would suggest airbrushing on the lighter gray exhaust stains. Another rule to keep in mind when applying pastel weathering is that subsequent clear coats may either darken or lighten the effect. Consequently, as with any other advanced modeling technique, the application of pastels and kind of getting the perfect amount that you want on the kit does take practice and a little bit of experimentation over time. For myself, I've noticed that oftentimes what looks good on the finished kit looks a little bit overdone in the weathering stage. Looking at the Revell BF109, we can see the pastel weathering and the detail that was added with pastels on this picture prior to the final clear coats. And in the next picture, we can see the final result. And so it's a little bit toned down, it's a little bit less obvious in the final picture here. In this picture, we can see the Key 84 Frank from Tamiya, and I would say this is an example of an aircraft that the pastel weathering I did, especially on the panel lines, came out just a little bit darker than I had anticipated. So again, this would just be an example of the subsequent clear coat altering the appearance of the pastel weathering. All right, in summary, when you're using the pastels to weather a model, it's always good to remember that you can go darker with pastels and not lighter, and that subsequent clear coats may alter the appearance of the pastel weathering. Finally, it's good to keep in mind that you can go back after you have applied that final clear coat and you can fine-tune the pastel weathering to make it exactly what you want it to be. All right, I'd love to know what you guys think. If this was a helpful video to you, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have questions or ideas for a future video, please post that as well. I truly welcome the feedback. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.